The winter storm arrived without mercy, swallowing the mountain highway in white rage. Snow fell thick and fast, driven sideways by screaming wind that erased the road, the sky, and all sense of direction. Engines crawled, tires slipped, and headlights glowed like frightened eyes trapped inside a frozen world. Somewhere between mile markers buried under ice, a woman stood alone against the blizzard. Her name was Evelyn Harper, and she had only one leg. She balanced carefully on her right leg, gripping a cold aluminum crutch with fingers that no longer felt like her own. Her left leg had been taken years ago in a brutal accident that turned metal into fire and changed her life forever. The prosthetic she depended on now lay abandoned far behind her, its joints frozen solid, useless in the storm. Leaving it had been a choice between pride and survival. She chose survival, snow packed in her hair and lashes. Her coat was stiff with ice. Every breath burned her lungs like broken glass. Yet she refused to sit down. Sitting meant surrender. Sitting meant the cold would win. She shifted her weight again, forcing blood to move, counting seconds between breaths so panic would not take control. Cars passed slowly through the storm. Some drivers stared through fogged windows, faces soft with sympathy. Others shook their heads and kept going, whispering safe words from warm seats. A few slowed as if considering help, then pressed the gas and vanished into white nothingness. Poor woman. She won't last long. Someone should help her. No one stopped. Pity was easy. Action was dangerous. Evelyn lifted her arm again, signaling through the white void. Her muscles trembled with exhaustion, but her eyes stayed sharp. She remembered the hospital room where doctors spoke gently about limits, about what she would never do again. She remembered promising herself she would never be small. She would never disappear quietly. Headlights suddenly emerged through the swirling snow. A large black pickup slowed, then stopped completely. The driver's door opened, and a man stepped into the blizzard as if the storm had no authority over him. He moved with balance and certainty, tall and solid, boots finding grip where others slid. The wind tore at his jacket, yet he walked forward without hesitation. "You hurt," he shouted over the wind. Evelyn laughed weakly, only missing a few parts. He came closer, scanning her stance, the crutch, the empty space beneath her coat. There was no pity in his eyes, only focus and calculation, like someone trained to read danger quickly. "My name's Luke," he said. "You can't stay out here." "I know," she replied, "but I can't climb into a truck either. Not like this." Luke looked at the road, then at the sky, then back at her. Decision settled across his face like armor. "Then ride with me." Before she could argue, he turned his back and crouched low. "Former Navy SEAL," he added calmly. "I've carried wounded men through mountains worse than this." The wind screamed as Evelyn wrapped an arm around his shoulders. Luke lifted her smoothly, adjusting his balance with practiced ease. Step by step, he carried her through the storm while drivers watched in stunned silence from behind glass. Snow slammed against his face, but his grip never loosened. He placed her gently into the passenger seat, wrapped a thick emergency blanket around her shoulders, and turned the heater on full. The engine hummed like a promise. Warm air rushed over Evelyn's frozen skin. Pain returned with the heat, sharp and real, but welcome. Her body finally allowed itself to shake, exhaustion pouring out of her in waves. "You're safe now," Luke said quietly. Meeting her eyes, as the truck pulled away, the blizzard raged on, furious and relentless. But for the first time that night, winter had lost something it tried to take. The road ahead vanished again and again beneath curtains of snow. Yet Luke drove with steady patience, hands firm on the wheel, eyes reading shapes others would miss. Evelyn watched him in silence, noticing the scars along his knuckles, the calm in his breathing. This was a man who had learned how to stay functional when fear tried to take over. "You didn't hesitate," she said softly. Luke shrugged. "Hesitation kills people." The words were simple, but heavy. Evelyn looked out at the frozen world sliding past, realizing how close she had come to becoming another quiet winter tragedy. Outside, the storm continued to roar, uncaring and vast. But inside the truck there was heat, motion, and the fragile certainty of survival. For the first time since the blizzard began, Evelyn allowed her eyes to close, trusting a stranger not because he felt sorry for her, but because he refused to leave anyone behind. The pickup pushed forward through drifts that looked more like walls than roads. Wind battered the doors and ice cracked beneath the tires, but Luke adjusted without panic, every movement controlled. Evelyn's thoughts drifted between pain and gratitude, between the memory of standing alone and the reality of being carried forward. She realized something important in that moment. All those people who had looked at her with pity had already decided how her story would end. Luke had not seen a victim on the roadside. He had seen a human being in danger. Outside, the blizzard continued to howl, but inside the truck, winter no longer felt unbeatable. The mountains faded behind them, swallowed again by white. Yet Evelyn knew this night would never fade. It would become a moment she remembered whenever the world tried to tell her she was weak, whenever winter returned with its tests. She straightened slightly in her seat, breath steady, alive, and the storm, for all its power, could not change that. Winter had tried to break her on that road. It had failed, and the night was not finished yet. The blizzard roared behind them as proof of what she had survived. Still moving. The truck pushed deeper into the mountains as night tightened its grip. Snow hammered the windshield, piling faster than the wipers could clear it. Yet Luke adjusted the speed with instinctive precision. Every curve felt measured, every correction deliberate, as if he had memorized storms like this long ago. Evelyn stayed quiet, conserving strength, listening to the steady rhythm of the engine and the controlled calm of the man driving her through chaos. They reached an old ranger shelter just as visibility dropped to nothing. Luke pulled in without hesitation, killed the engine, and stepped out into the storm again. When he returned, his jacket was layered with ice, but his movements were unhurried. He helped Evelyn inside, built a fire from stored wood, and boiled water on a small emergency stove like it was second nature. Warmth slowly filled the room. Evelyn watched him work, recognizing discipline born from experience rather than fear. "You've done this before," she said. Luke nodded. "Winter operations. Mountains don't care who you are." As the fire crackled, Evelyn told him about the night she lost her leg, about waking up afterward and realizing her life would never be the same, about learning balance again, not just on one leg, but in her mind, how she learned that strength wasn't loud and survival wasn't pretty. Luke listened without interrupting, eyes steady, respect growing with every word. "Most people would have sat down out there," he said quietly. Evelyn shook her head. "Most people already gave up before winter even arrived." Morning came slowly, light filtering through frost-covered windows. The storm loosened its grip, leaving the world buried but quiet. Luke helped Evelyn secure a temporary support, improvised yet stable. He drove her the rest of the way to her cabin, clearing snow from the door and stacking firewood until she could manage on her own. Before leaving, he handed her a simple card. "If winter tests you again," he said, "call." Weeks later, Evelyn sat in front of camera, snow falling softly outside her window. She took a breath and pressed record. Movie Camera YouTube channel. Her brave stories, they pitted the one-legged woman in the blizzard, she said. But pity doesn't save lives. Courage does. Action does. Winter will test you, just like it tested me. If this story moved you, subscribe to her brave stories for more true courage and strength. She smiled gently at the lens. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? Somewhere far away, a former Navy SEAL watched the video in silence, then nodded once. Winter had tried to decide her ending. She chose to keep moving instead. The storm passed, the road reopened, and life continued, marked forever by one night when standing meant survival and trust meant everything. Winter had done its worst. She was still here.